Okay, if you think about a wildlife photographer, the first thing that might come to your mind is great big lenses, and that's true. A lot of wildlife photographers do have big lenses like this one, or even bigger. This one here is a 300mm lens, and at the moment it's got a tele-extender attached to it, which effectively increases the focal length. But there are other lenses that you can use as well. At the moment attached to this camera is a 70-200 lens. It's called a zoom lens because you can actually change the focal length of the lens, and for wildlife photography that can be quite useful because it means that you can be sat in one particular position and change your framing. Also in this bag there's a short zoom as well. This one goes from 28mm to 135, and this lens is ideal for doing more landscapey type pictures. You'll notice that every one of these lenses has got a lens hood on it, and the lens hood's job is to stop stray light from getting into the lens and spoiling your photograph from flare. And flare is where the sunlight hits the front element of your lens. So all of these lenses will always have a lens hood attached to them. Also in a wildlife photographer's bag you might find other little bits and pieces. A flash gun can be quite useful for lighting up very, very small subjects, or if you've got a backlight situation that we were talking about earlier on. You might decide that you want to have your flash gun not attached to the top of the camera but off on a lead. So this will take the flash gun off, and then you can move the flash around wherever you want the light to come from. Very useful tool. This little gadget is called an extension tube, and this allows your lens to focus much, much closer. If you've got a very small subject such as a frog or a fungus, you can put this between the lens and the camera, and that will allow the lens to focus much, much closer. In actual fact, there are times when I prefer to use my telephoto lens with an extension tube rather than using a macro lens. We're going to have a go at some low angle photography in a minute, and one useful little gadget for that is an angle finder, and the angle finder just pushes into the viewfinder on your camera. So it means that you can actually look directly down into your camera so that you don't have to strain your neck. So that can be a really useful gadget. Another gadget that can be very helpful to you to make sure that your camera is level is a spirit level. That just drops into the hot shoe there and tells you whether your camera is level. Well, of course we don't always get the wonderful, beautiful light that we've got this morning, so supporting your camera can be very, very important. At the moment my camera is sat on my trusty beanbag, which allows me to rest the camera directly on the ground or on a wall or on a windowsill or on the window ledge of the car. But there are other alternatives as well. You could use a monopod, which is a single-legged tripod to help support your camera. Or you could use a full-blown tripod, such as the one that we've got here. What's most important is that you're making sure that you don't get that camera shake, because even if you've got the best opportunity to take that wildlife photograph, if you shake your camera, your picture's going to come out blurred. So we don't want that. Other little bits and pieces in the bag. There are lens hoods, obviously to protect the front element of your lens. We have memory cards. So important that you take plenty of memory cards if you're shooting with a digital camera, or if you're shooting with film, take plenty of film. And also spare batteries. You'd be amazed how often you actually go out to take pictures and you run out of the batteries, so those can be really important. Another place in the bag, we've got lens cloths, so that you can clean the lens if it gets dirty or if it gets spots of rain on it. Or we have other little gizmos such as this one here, and this one fits to the front of your flash gun so that your flash gun actually travels a lot further. And then this end goes onto the flash and your flash fires through. We won't be using this in this particular situation because we're expecting the subject to be really very close. So that's the sort of typical bag that you might see for the average wildlife photographer. You don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money. Obviously you need the camera, and a lens something in the region of 70 to 300 is ideal. And for a couple of £100 you can get yourself a lens that will really get you going very well in wildlife photography. After the telephoto lens, the next thing I would buy would be the extension tube, because that gives you the opportunity to do close-ups, and then a flash gun. And once you've explored all of those particular features, you can then start experimenting with other lenses, much longer lenses, much faster lenses that have got a wider aperture, maybe teleconverters, which will increase the focal length of your lens again, or even wide-angle lenses, because there isn't necessarily one way to photograph every subject. It's down to you. You're the photographer. You take the picture. You decide how you're going to do it and with what equipment. Okay, let's go and take some pictures.